Last time I did a video in Russian, a little bit about myself and how I started learning languages, and some advice on learning languages for other people. So I just wanted to do a version in English as well. So I was born in Russia in 1986 in a city called Ufa. And since very early age, I was interested in languages. There was a book about linguistics and about languages and language history, which I had. It was actually an old Soviet book, I think published in late 70s or early 80s. And I remember when I was about 6 or 7 years old, I always flicked through the pages, looking at pictures, and then I was reading it as well. And I was fascinated about languages and history of languages and how they differ and also their similarities. Then I came to the UK when I was 13 in 1999 and started mainstream school here about a month after moving to the UK. It was a little bit difficult at first, simply just to adapt to a different culture, I suppose. But I made friends quickly. I was I loved football. I still do. So I just used to go on a football field, playing field, and made friends quite quickly, which helped me a lot to adapt to life here in the UK. And everybody at school was very supportive, so it was great. When I started at the school, I was asked by the principal which foreign language I wanted to learn, whether it was French or German, and I was advised to. My mum said, "Well, try French because it should be easier." Well, little did I know that half of the words in French, when they're spelt, a lot of the letters are not pronounced. So initially, actually, I really struggled with French. I was behind everybody else in class, and I mean, I was really behind everybody else in class. So, but I didn't give up. What I did do is I would take books, the workbooks, exercise books that we had, and I would just learn all the words there. I would literally spend weekends writing out every single word, 2, 3, sometimes 4 lines, until I remembered it. And I think within a year, I progressed from being, the worst in class to being the best in class. And then when I was in year 10 here at my school, I started learning German as additional language, and I absolutely fell in love with it. I must actually say that German language and German culture have a special place in our family. My great grandfather grew up with Volga Germans, so they were German settlers who came to the Russian Empire during the reign of Catherine the Great and formed settlements there along Volga River in Russia. So my great grandfather, he grew up with them. So for him, German was a native, almost a native language. He spoke it perfectly, and my grandmother and a lot of my family members also learnt it. And yes, we do all like German culture as well and language. So when I started learning German, I absolutely fell in love with the language. And I remember that my first German teacher, she also gave me first two Rammstein albums, and I really fell in love with the band, and I think started liking language even more. I still remember when I was 14, 15, 16, I would translate their lyrics into English. I would learn all the words, which actually helped me quite a lot as well with vocabulary. And yes, then I carried on learning languages. I did French, German, and English with English literature in sixth form. But when I finished my school, when I did GCSEs. But before that, when I was 14, 15, I was actually convinced that I would do chemistry, physics, and biology for further studies in sixth form and at university. So, but I'm not sure what actually happened. I'm not sure what actually caused that complete U-turn. But yes, when I was 16 and I was already choosing my subjects at sixth form, I opted for French, German, and English with English literature. So, in the second year of sixth form, we had to make choices for further studies at university if we were going. But I actually wasn't sure what to do, so I was procrastinating a lot, and I did miss I missed the deadline. But I think it was more deliberately. I missed the deadline deliberately because I didn't really know what to do at university. I was thinking to do either French and linguistics or German and linguistics, and I was thinking maybe I'd do French and German, or maybe I'd do some sort of combination of languages, but I didn't feel that I was ready. So what I decided to do was I decided to spend a year working as a teaching assistant at my school where I studied, and I did that instead of applying to go to university. So I spent a year working as teaching assistant. I started when I was 18, just when I finished my A-level exams. So I was the youngest member of the staff there, and it was a bit tough simply because I think I was the youngest and I did still have that baby face. And some teachers actually thought that I was a pupil, so I was actually told off a lot of the time for being out of the class or for being late to class. Because I suppose maybe when I was 18 I still looked like I was a year 11 or a sixth former. But it was okay in the end. I got another job afterwards. I decided to still not to go to university. I just didn't feel that I was ready. So I got another job. I got a job at a different school. And this is where things started to get a little bit more interesting, because the second school where I worked, I was put in my first school. I was kind of working with all subjects. So it was with English, it was with maths, it was with science, it was with French. I was helping in German as well. But in my second school, I was put in language department. So it was in modern languages department, French and Spanish. But at school and sixth form, I did French and German. In my new school now, where I started work, they did French and Spanish. So I didn't know any. I think I could count to 10. Maybe that was it, or two. I think I could say what my name was and ask what time it was in Spanish. That was my limit. But the head teacher decided to put me into languages department, despite the fact that there was a native French speaker and a native Spanish speaker. So there was a lady from France and one from Mexico, but they were, for some reason, only put in languages department as on part-time basis. I think they were helping out in maths and science, and I was actually the only full-time teaching assistant in modern languages department. I said to the head teacher, "Look, I don't speak Spanish. I will be okay with French, but my Spanish is pretty much zero. Is zero. I don't speak anything at all." So she said, "Look, in your CV, you said you're a quick learner, so prove it now. That's your opportunity." So I did, and I started learning Spanish. I made friends with the Spanish teacher, who was also a guitar player. So we kind of made friends. We played guitar together as well, and he was also learning Russian, so I was teaching him a bit of Russian. He was teaching me Spanish, so we kind of did this language exchange, and played guitar, played jazz, blues, flamenco together. So it was great. He started me off, and it was brilliant. And then I signed up to a evening Spanish class. So I must be honest. At first, I didn't actually like Spanish. I didn't like the way it sounds, and so I did. So I started learning it, and I was progressing quite quickly. I was good, but I didn't enjoy it. I was just purely doing it because I needed to for my job. But then something clicked almost like in my brain, something clicked, and I started to enjoy it, and I kind of thought, I actually love it, and I ended up applying to university, and I got into a university where I could study French and German and Spanish as well. But I kind of, even though I did have basic conversational Spanish skills, by the time I got to uni, I did do it from a zero level. But so yeah, I did my year abroad as well during my university degree. So I spent half a year in France, half a year in Spain, and also did 2 summers in Germany. And the thing that I must say about learning languages is you have to love what you do, whether it's whatever it is in life. That also applies to learning languages. So if you are learning a language, whether it is for school or because you have to, whether it's for university because you chose, or for work like I had to as well with my Spanish, you have to find something about that language or about that culture, about that country that you like. And because if you do enjoy what you're doing, you will find yourself in almost like a flow where you are not resisting the process. And then you will naturally start to excel at it if you do like what you're doing. And it applies to all aspects of life, not just learning languages, but it's whatever else you are working on, whether it's work or studies. Also, something that I found very useful is making friends with native speakers. Whether it is meeting face to face, if you are fortunate enough to live in an area, let's say if you're learning German and you have some German native speakers in a city, in a town where you live, that is fantastic. I would definitely recommend making friends with them. If it's somebody at work as well, go out together, maybe get to know each other. But also, we live in a digital world where we have so many apps. One of my favorite is Tandem. It's free to use. It's a free app. I think it comes with additional in-app purchases, but the free version is also absolutely fine. So in this app Tandem, you can basically match up with people who are native speakers of whatever language you're learning, and you can practice together. It is a great tool. It is fun and it is very useful. So I would definitely recommend it to everybody. This is how I am now picking up Portuguese, and hopefully might do a couple of more languages as well. My goal is to be able to speak 10 by the time in the next 10 years. So I'll definitely say that. And of course, the most important thing about anything that you learn, whether it is languages, martial arts, or anything else, is regular practice. Even if you practice needs to be regular, and I would say more than once a week. You need to find yourself 2-3 times a week when you are learning vocabulary, when you are doing exercises, whether it is online or whether it is with a textbook. And also, yes, definitely practice with native speakers, because it makes a lot of difference. And speaking is very important, as well as listening. Listening is probably one of those hardest things. It could be relatively easy to write and to read, but to listen and to speak, because things happen a lot faster. So you definitely practice makes perfect. And so yeah, if you have any comments, any questions, please write them down. I'll be glad to hear from everybody, and talk soon. Bye bye.